The invitation that was never meant to be kind. The first time Malik Carter heard his father say the word chess, it didn't sound like a game. It sounded like a warning. They were in the service elevator of the Ashford Crown Hotel, steel walls, a faint smell of bleach, and the hum of money above them. Malik's father, Donnell, stood with a mop bucket rolling gently as the elevator climbed. His shoulders were broad, his uniform grey, his hands cracked from years of scrubbing other people's shine into existence. Malik was 13. Too tall for his age. Too quiet for his neighborhood. The kind of quiet that made people underestimate him and then get uncomfortable when they realized he'd heard everything. "Keep your eyes down," Donnell said, not looking at Malik. "These floors are different." Malik stared at the floor indicator. 12. 13. 14. The higher they went, the softer the elevator's hum became, like even the machine knew it was entering a world where sound wasn't allowed to be messy. "You said I could come because you needed help," Malik replied. "I needed help with the carts," Donnell said. "Not with these people." The doors slid open on the 15th floor. Carpets so thick it felt like walking on secrets. Chandeliers that didn't just sparkle, they judged. Donnell pushed the cart forward like he belonged, but Malik could tell he didn't. Not in their eyes. Not in the way a suited man glanced at him and then looked away too quickly, like Malik's existence was a smudge. Then Malik saw her. Vivienne Ashford. Everyone in the city knew the Ashford name. The Ashfords didn't just have money, they had gravity. Their donations carried headlines. Their parties decided careers. Their smiles had cameras trained to catch them. Vivienne was the youngest heir, the one who ran charity events and posed beside schools she'd never attend, hospitals she'd never need, and people she'd never remember. She wore a white blazer that looked like it had never met a wrinkle. Her hair was sleek, her posture sharper than a knife, her laughter too bright to be real. She stood with a group of guests near the private lounge. Malik had seen her on billboards. Up close, she looked smaller, and somehow more dangerous. Her eyes drifted to Malik and Donnell. Not with curiosity. With amusement. "Donnell," she said suddenly, as if his name had been waiting in her mouth. Donnell froze. The cart stopped rolling. "Yes, Ms. Ashford," he replied. Vivienne stepped closer, her heels soft on the carpet. The guests around her turned slightly, sensing entertainment. "You brought your son," she said, tilting her head. "How wholesome." Donnell's jaw tightened. "He's helping me, It's sweet," she cut in. "Very sweet." Her gaze moved to Malik like she was choosing something from a menu. "What's your name?" she asked. Malik didn't answer immediately. Not because he was afraid. Because he could feel the trap in the tone. Donnell rushed in. "Malik. Malik Carter." Vivienne's smile widened. "Malik. Like a king." A man nearby chuckled. Another guest sipped champagne, watching like this was theater. Vivienne gestured toward the glass doors leading into the private lounge. "We're hosting a little fundraiser tonight," she said. "High profile. Big donors. A few local champions." "Congratulations," Donnell said carefully. Vivienne's eyes flicked to him, then back to Malik. "We have a chess table inside. Hand-carved. Imported. It's beautiful." Malik's eyes narrowed slightly. He didn't like the way she spoke about things that had price tags the size of people's lives. Vivienne leaned down, her voice lowering like she was sharing a secret. "Do you play, Malik?" Donnell tried to step between them. "He doesn't." "I asked him," Vivienne said, without raising her voice, but somehow the air changed. Malik met her gaze. "Yes," he said. The circle of guests murmured. A few smiled like this was adorable. Like they'd found a puppy that could do a trick. "Oh." Vivienne's eyebrows rose. "And who taught you?" "Myself," Malik answered. Laughter bubbled in the group, not cruel enough to be called cruelty in public, but sharp enough to cut. Vivienne's eyes gleamed. "I love that. I adore confidence." Then she turned, calling out into the lounge. "Miles, come here for a moment." A tall boy about 18 stepped forward, wearing a tailored suit and a bored expression. Malik recognized him, not personally, but by reputation. Miles Hargrove, state-ranked chess player, private school star, son of a donor who owned half the city's real estate. Miles looked at Malik like he was looking at a fly that had wandered into a crystal glass. "What is it?" Miles asked, annoyed. Vivienne smiled with practiced innocence. "This young man says he plays chess." Miles barely held back a smirk. "He does." Malik felt his father's hand tighten around the cart handle. Vivienne clasped her hands, eyes sparkling. Wouldn't it be delightful to let him play a game? The guests leaned in. Phones didn't come out. This crowd didn't need proof. Their laughter was enough. Donnell's voice came out low. "Ms. Ashford, my son is here to help me work. We shouldn't." Vivienne waved him off like he was smoke. "Oh, Donnell. It's just a game. Let the boy have a moment. Isn't that what people like you want? A chance?" The words "people like you" landed like a slap. Donnell's face tightened, but he forced a smile. "Malik has homework." Vivienne's smile sharpened. "So do my donors. Yet they're here." Miles shrugged. "I'll do it. Quick game. 10 minutes. Vivienne clapped softly. "Perfect." Malik looked at his father. Donnell's eyes pleaded without words. "Don't do this. Don't give them a reason." But Malik wasn't just hearing the laughter. He was hearing the years. The overtime hours. The missed birthdays. The humiliation Donnell swallowed daily like poison. Malik saw the way people looked through his father like he was a moving object, not a man. And now Vivienne wanted Malik to be entertainment. A joke. Malik's voice stayed calm. "I'll play." Donnell's head snapped toward him. "Malik." "It's okay," Malik said quietly, though it wasn't. "It's just a game." Vivienne's grin returned, satisfied. They walked Malik into the lounge. It looked like a museum built for egos. Velvet chairs. Marble bar. A chandelier that could feed Malik's entire neighborhood for a year. In the center sat the chess table. Dark wood, glossy, with pieces carved like royalty. Miles sat, loosening his cuffs like he was about to do something unpleasant but necessary. Vivienne perched on the edge of a sofa, surrounded by guests. Their eyes were bright, hungry. "Go on," she said. "Show us what you've got, Malik." Malik sat opposite Miles. He rested his hands near the pieces, feeling their weight. Everything in the room was trying to tell him he didn't belong at this table. He inhaled once. Then he moved a pawn forward. Miles didn't even look at Malik's face. He played fast. Confident. Like the outcome was guaranteed. Malik matched him. 10 moves in, Miles' smirk faded. 15 moves in, the room grew quieter. Vivienne leaned forward. Her smile flickered. Miles sat up straighter, eyes narrowing. He slowed down. He started calculating. Malik's heart wasn't pounding. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't thrilled. He was focused. Because for Malik, chess wasn't a hobby. It was a language. It was the only place in his life where the rules didn't shift depending on who had money. Miles moved his queen, trying to bait a trade. Malik paused, just long enough for the crowd to think he hesitated. Then he sacrificed his bishop. A few guests laughed again, relieved. "Oh no," someone murmured. "There it is." Miles grinned. "Thanks." He took the bishop. Malik's eyes stayed still. His hand moved again, sliding his knight into place. Miles' grin faltered. The room held its breath. Vivienne's fingers tightened around her glass. Miles looked at the board, then looked again, as if the pieces had betrayed him. "Wait," he said, under his breath. Malik didn't respond. Miles tried to fix it with a pawn move. He reached for a strategy he'd used 100 times against weaker players. But Malik wasn't weak. Malik was patient. 2 moves later, Miles' king was trapped in a net so tight it felt like the air itself had become a cage. Miles' face flushed. "No, that's not." Malik tilted his head slightly. "It's check." A murmur rippled through the lounge. Miles stared at the board, then at Malik, like he was seeing him for the first time. Vivienne sat back, her smile gone. Miles' hand trembled slightly as he moved. His next move only made it worse. Malik's final move came quietly. A simple slide of his queen. The board froze. Miles' king had nowhere to go. Silence fell so hard it felt physical. Malik's voice was calm, almost gentle. Checkmate. For a moment, nobody reacted. Like their brains refused to accept what their eyes had witnessed. Then someone chuckled nervously. Is that real? Miles sat back like he'd been punched. Vivienne's eyes snapped to Miles, then back to Malik. Her face was smooth, but something dark flickered behind it. Something like insult, like embarrassment, like anger that a joke had turned into a mirror. She forced a laugh. Well, that was unexpected. Miles stood abruptly, pushing his chair back. He cheated, he blurted, too loud. The room turned. Vivienne's gaze sharpened. Miles. He cheated, Miles repeated, voice rising. Nobody plays like that. Not what? Not someone like Malik. Vivienne's lips pressed into a thin line. She looked at Malik, then at Donnell standing near the door, face pale. You taught him this? Vivienne asked Donnell, like it was an accusation. Donnell swallowed. No, Vivienne's eyes narrowed. Then where did he learn? Malik answered before his father could. In the library. Vivienne scoffed softly. The library, she repeated, tasting the word like it was cheap. Miles pointed at the board. Run it again, he demanded. Longer time. Proper rules. He got lucky. Malik's voice stayed even. Luck doesn't checkmate. A few guests gasped, half impressed, half offended by the audacity of truth spoken out loud. Vivienne stood. Enough, she said, and the room obeyed. She stepped closer to Malik, her smile returning but colder now. You've made your point, she said softly. Congratulations. Now go help your father. Malik began to rise. But Vivienne leaned in closer, her voice low so only Malik and Donnell could hear. Enjoy your little moment, she whispered. Because people like you don't get many. Donnell's fists clenched. Malik looked at her, calm as stone. People like me, he echoed quietly, remember everything. Vivienne's smile twitched. Then she straightened, louder now, for the room. What a charming surprise. I'll have someone donate chess sets to his school. Isn't that lovely? The guests clapped politely, already turning it into a charity moment so they wouldn't have to admit they'd been entertained by humiliation. Donnell grabbed the cart handle again, pulling Malik toward the door. But as they left the lounge, Malik heard Vivienne's voice behind them. Smooth, casual, poisonous. Make sure security checks the cameras, she said to someone. And find out who that boy really is. Malik's stomach tightened. Not from fear. From understanding. Because he'd just beaten her favorite star in front of her donors. And rich people didn't lose gracefully. In the service elevator down, Donnell finally spoke, his voice shaking. Why did you do that? He demanded. Why couldn't you just let it go? Malik stared at the floor indicator dropping. 15. 14. 13. Because I'm tired, Malik said quietly. I'm tired of you being invisible. Donnell's eyes flashed with pain. You think this helps? You think humiliating them helps us? Malik looked up. They were humiliating us already. The elevator doors opened on the ground floor. The smell of bleach returned. The real world. But something had shifted. As they pushed the cart down the hall, Malik noticed a man in a suit standing near the concierge desk, watching them two intently. Not a guest. Not staff. His hand moved to his earpiece. Malik's throat tightened. Donnell noticed too. Keep walking, he muttered. They turned a corner toward the staff hallway. And that's when Malik saw the hotel manager sprinting toward them. Face pale, eyes wide like something had exploded upstairs. Donnell, the manager shouted. Where are you going? Ms. Ashford, she just called down. Right now. Donnell froze. Malik's heart slowed, not sped up. Because whatever Vivienne Ashford wanted next wasn't going to be a game. And the way the manager's hands trembled told Malik one thing clearly. They were in trouble. The price of winning. Donnell didn't speak on the elevator ride back up. He stood stiff as a statue, jaw clenched, eyes fixed on nothing. Malik watched his father's reflection in the elevator mirror. How the lines on his face looked deeper when fear and pride collided. "You didn't do anything wrong," Malik said quietly. Donnell's voice came out rough. "Wrong doesn't matter when people like her write the rules." The elevator dinged again at the 15th floor. This time, the carpet didn't feel like secrets. It felt like a trap. The hotel manager led them through the lounge entrance, past guests who pretended not to stare, but their eyes followed Malik like he was a headline. Vivienne stood near the chess table, sipping water now, her smile replaced by something polished and sharp. Miles Hargrove was beside her, arms crossed, face still flushed. He looked like he'd been forced to swallow humiliation and now wanted to spit it back out. Vivienne's gaze drifted to Donnell first, then Malik. "Donnell," she said, voice sweet enough to be a lie. "Thank you for coming." Donnell bowed his head slightly. "Yes, Vivienne gestured to a chair. "Sit." Donnell didn't move. "I'm on shift." Vivienne laughed softly. "You're always on shift. But tonight, you're on my time." The guests nearby angled closer. Quietly, like predators pretending to be polite. Vivienne turned to Malik. "You embarrassed my guest." Miles snapped, he cheated. Malik's eyes didn't flicker. "No." Vivienne's smile widened. Confidence again. "I do love it." Then her face hardened in a heartbeat. "Here's what's going to happen," she said. "We're going to play again. But this time, with oversight. A clock. And witnesses who actually understand chess." Miles lifted his chin, relieved. "Exactly." Donnell stepped forward. "Ms. Ashford, please. Malik has school." This was. Vivienne held up a hand. "If your son is truly talented, this will be an opportunity." Her eyes narrowed. "And if he is not, then we will all know what this really was." Donnell's voice shook. "What do you mean?" Vivienne smiled without warmth. "A little con. A little performance for attention. And I don't tolerate performances in my hotel." Malik felt the air tighten. Not because she'd threatened him, because she'd threatened his father's livelihood. His father's survival. Donnell swallowed. "We didn't con anyone." Vivienne stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Then prove it." She turned and snapped her fingers. A man approached, older, silver-haired, wearing a pin that read Ashford Chess Foundation. Malik had never heard of it, but the name sounded expensive. "This is Mr. Halden," Vivienne announced. "He's a board member of the City Chess League." Mr. Halden looked Malik up and down like he was inspecting a product. "You're the boy." Malik nodded once. Miles sat at the table immediately, setting up pieces with a grin that was too eager. "Let's do it." Vivienne rested a hand on the chair behind Malik as if guiding a child. Malik Saturday. The chess clock clicked on. Mr. Halden watched closely. Too closely. Miles played slower this time, choosing safer lines, trying to suffocate Malik instead of rushing him. He wanted control. He wanted dominance. Malik let him have the illusion of both. Because Malik understood something most people didn't. When someone thinks they're testing you, they get careless. They reveal themselves. The game stretched longer. The room's whispers returned, but softer now, uneasy. Guests who'd been hoping for a quick humiliation were now watching something they didn't understand but could feel: pressure. Precision. A mind that moved like a storm behind calm eyes. Miles tried to trap Malik's knight. Malik sacrificed a pawn to open a diagonal. Mr. Halden's eyes widened slightly. Vivienne's jaw tightened. Miles leaned forward, breath quickening. 30 moves in, Miles' hands were sweating. 40 moves in, the board looked like a battlefield where Malik's pieces were outnumbered, until you saw the trap hidden in the angles. Malik moved his rook. A quiet sound. A deadly sound. Mr. Halden inhaled sharply. Miles froze. No, Miles whispered. Malik's next move forced a sequence Miles couldn't stop. A king squeezed into a corner, a queen pinned, a bishop useless. The final position arrived like a door slamming shut. Mr. Haldon's voice was low. Checkmate. The room went silent again, but this silence was different. It wasn't disbelief. It was fear. Because now it wasn't a lucky kid. Now it was undeniable. Miles pushed back from the table, face red hot. This is ridiculous. His some kind of. Vivienne's voice cut through. Enough, Miles. Miles turned toward her, desperate. Vivienne, you saw. I saw you lose, she said, calm and cruel. Miles stood there, humiliated twice. Vivienne turned to Mr. Haldon. Your assessment. Mr. Haldon cleared his throat. The boy is exceptional. Malik felt his father's shoulders drop slightly, like a burden had loosened. Then Vivienne smiled again. And Malik knew that smile. It was the smile of someone deciding how to turn your gift into their property. Exceptional, Vivienne repeated. How interesting. She stepped toward Malik, speaking as if she were offering candy. Malik, would you like to compete in a private tournament? Invite only. The city's best junior players. Scholarships. Sponsors. Donnell's eyes widened. Scholarships. Vivienne nodded. Yes. Imagine what that could mean for him. Donnell's voice cracked. Malik, this could. Malik's eyes stayed on Vivienne. Why? Vivienne blinked, almost amused. Why what? Why do you want me there? Malik asked. You invited me as a joke. A few guests shifted uncomfortably. Vivienne laughed lightly. Oh, don't be dramatic. It was playful. Malik's voice stayed calm. It was cruel. Vivienne's smile tightened. Donnell whispered, Malik. Malik didn't look away. So why now? Vivienne's gaze hardened for a fraction of a second, just long enough for Malik to see the truth. Because she couldn't afford to let the story spread without controlling it. If Malik's genius became public, people would ask where he came from. They'd ask why no one noticed. They'd ask what the Ashfords did when they met him. Vivienne didn't want questions. She wanted ownership. She leaned closer, voice low. Because I can change your life. Malik answered softly. Or control it. Vivienne's eyes flashed. Careful. Donnell stepped in fast. Ms. Ashford, we're grateful, truly. But Malik is still a child. We'd need time to think. Vivienne's polite face returned instantly. Of course. Take all the time you need. Then her tone sharpened like a blade. After you finish your shift, she added, glancing at the manager. Assuming you still have one. Donnell's face drained. The manager looked down, ashamed. Malik's stomach tightened. Vivienne turned back to Malik, smiling for the crowd. I'll have my assistant send an invitation. I do hope you accept. It would be tragic if your talent went unnoticed. Then she whispered, only for Malik to hear. And it would be even more tragic if your father lost his job because you couldn't learn your place. Malik felt his father's life hanging from that sentence. They left the lounge with the manager trailing behind, murmuring apologies that meant nothing. In the staff hallway, Donnell finally snapped. What were you thinking? He hissed. Talking back to her like that. Malik's eyes were steady. She's threatening you. Donnell's voice broke. She can do more than threaten. She can ruin us. Malik looked at his father, and his voice softened. Then we stop letting them be the only ones with power. Donnell laughed bitterly. And how do you plan to do that? With a chessboard? Malik didn't answer. Because he'd just noticed something that made his blood run cold. A staff member stood near the service door, a woman Malik had never seen before. Her uniform looked right, but her eyes didn't. She watched them too carefully, like she was waiting for something. Malik's gaze locked on her. She quickly looked away. But not before Malik saw the small earpiece tucked behind her hair. Security. Or worse. Donnell grabbed Malik's arm. Come on. Let's finish and go. They reached the employee lockers, and Donnell opened his. A white envelope sat inside. Donnell froze. He lifted it with trembling fingers. The front read, "Termination notice." Malik's throat tightened. Donnell's lips parted, but no sound came out. He unfolded the paper. And at the bottom, in neat ink, was a handwritten line. "Tell your son congratulations. Talent has consequences." VA the Tournament of Golden Chains. Donnell didn't sleep that night. Malik could hear his father pacing their small apartment, footsteps moving like anxious prayers across the worn carpet. The city outside buzzed with sirens and distant laughter, but inside, the air felt heavier than rent. The termination notice lay on the kitchen table like a dead thing. Donnell stared at it, eyes red. 20 years, he whispered. 20 years of showing up early, leaving late. And she ends it with a pen. Malik sat across from him, hands folded, calm in a way that made adults nervous. "They wanted me to be quiet," Malik said. Donnell's voice cracked. "They wanted you to be safe." Malik looked at him. Safe isn't the same as free. A knock came at the door. Donnell jolted, fear flashing. "Who?" Another knock. Firm. Controlled. Malik stood. "I'll get it." Donnell grabbed his arm. "No." The knocking came again. Malik opened the door. A woman stood there in a long coat, hair pulled back, holding a leather folder. Her face was serious but not cruel. "Malik Carter?" she asked. "Yes." "I'm Elise Marrow," she said. "Vivienne Ashford's representative." Donnell appeared behind Malik, eyes sharp. "We're not interested." Elise's gaze softened slightly. "Mr. Carter, I'm sorry about your job." Donnell laughed bitterly. "Sorry. She fired me." Elise nodded once, like she'd expected that. "Ms. Ashford is prepared to rectify that." Donnell froze. Elise opened the folder and slid out an invitation. Thick paper. Gold embossing. Ashford Youth Chess Gala. Private tournament. Below that. Scholarship consideration. Media coverage. Sponsor selection. And at the bottom, in smaller print. Attendance requested. Not invited. Requested. Elise glanced at Malik. "Ms. Ashford believes you could benefit greatly." Malik's voice was calm. "And my father?" Elise slid another paper forward. "A job offer. Same hotel. Higher pay. Better hours." Donnell's breath caught. Elise's tone stayed neutral, but the message underneath was loud. "This can all be restored," she said. "Ms. Ashford values loyalty." Donnell stared at the papers like a starving man staring at food that might be poisoned. Malik looked at Elise. "What's the cost?" Elise held Malik's gaze. "Ms. Ashford wants you to play." "And if I don't?" Elise didn't smile. "Then there's no reason to undo what's been done." Donnell stepped forward, voice shaking. "You can't." Elise's eyes flicked to him. "Mr. Carter, I'm not here to debate fairness. I'm here to present reality." She turned to Malik. "Ms. Ashford expects your answer by morning." Then she left, quiet as a shadow. The door closed. Donnell sank into a chair, hands trembling. "Malik, we need that job." Malik's voice softened. "I know." Donnell swallowed hard. "Then, we go." Malik stared at the invitation. He felt it. The golden chain disguised as opportunity. They went. 2 days later, Malik and Donnell entered the Ashford estate, an entire world behind iron gates. The driveway curved like it didn't want common people to see where it led. Valets moved like clockwork. Cameras flashed. A banner read, "Investing in youth. Building tomorrow." Malik stood in a borrowed suit that didn't fit his shoulders quite right. Donnell wore his best shirt, hands still rough, eyes scanning like a man entering enemy territory. Inside, the ballroom was transformed into a chess arena. Dozens of boards. Dozens of children in suits and dresses, their parents hovering like investors around stocks. And at the center, shining like the event belonged to her soul, stood Vivienne Ashford. When she saw Malik, she smiled for the cameras. "There he is," she announced, loud enough for people to turn. "Our miracle." Donnell stiffened at the word. Vivienne approached, air perfumed and expensive. "Malik." "Donnell. Welcome." Donnell forced politeness. "Ms. Ashford." Vivienne leaned down to Malik, voice low. "Remember what I said. Talent has consequences." Malik stared at her. "So does arrogance." Her smile twitched, but she didn't break. "You'll learn." She guided Malik toward the boards. Mr. Halden stood nearby, clipboard in hand, eyes bright with ambition. "We'll start with brackets. Single elimination." Malik glanced around. He recognized faces from news segments. Children of judges. Children of doctors. Children of people who would never be fired for losing a game. A boy with slick hair leaned toward Malik. "You're the janitor's kid," he whispered, not quietly. Malik didn't flinch. "I'm Malik." The boy smirked. "I'm Tristan. My dad funds this league. If you beat me, I'll make sure you don't play again." Malik looked at him. "Chess doesn't care who your dad is." Tristan's smile faded. "We'll see." The tournament began. Malik played like a storm contained in a bottle. Round 1. He dismantled Tristan in 23 moves. The boy's face collapsed. Tristan's father stormed toward Mr. Halden, whispering angrily. Round 2. Malik defeated a girl who'd been coached by a grandmaster. Her mother stared at Malik like he was a glitch in the system. Round 3. Malik faced a quiet boy named Asher, the only one who looked at Malik with respect. The game was tight. Beautiful. Intelligent. Malik won in the end, but he stood and offered Asher his hand. Asher shook it, smiling. "You're real," he whispered. Malik nodded. "So are you." People started murmuring differently now. Not cute. Not funny. But dangerous. Because Malik wasn't just winning. He was exposing a lie, that talent belonged to those who could afford it. Between rounds, Vivienne's assistant ushered Malik into a side room. Vivienne waited inside, alone, holding a contract. She didn't smile this time. "Congratulations," she said flatly. "You're doing well." Malik looked at the contract. "What's that?" Vivienne slid it closer. "A sponsorship agreement. Ashford Chess Foundation will fund your training, your travel, your future." Donnell entered behind Malik, eyes widening at the word fund. Vivienne continued, voice smooth. "In return, you'll represent Ashford. Interviews. Public appearances. Gratitude." Malik stared at the contract. "So you want to own the story?" Vivienne's eyes narrowed. "I want to ensure you don't embarrass the wrong people again." Donnell's voice came out cautious. "Ms. Ashford, this could help Malik." Vivienne smiled at Donnell like he was finally being sensible. "Exactly." Malik's voice stayed calm. "What happens if I don't sign?" Vivienne's tone sharpened. "Then your father's job offer disappears." Donnell flinched. Malik looked at his father, and the pain in his father's eyes hit him like a punch. Donnell wasn't weak. He was tired. Malik turned back to Vivienne. "You can't buy dignity." Vivienne leaned forward, eyes cold. "Dignity doesn't pay bills. Sign the contract." Malik picked up the pen. Donnell exhaled, relieved, until Malik did something neither of them expected. Malik used the pen to write one sentence across the signature line. "I will not be owned." Vivienne's face snapped hard. "You little," her voice stopped, controlled, but venomous. "You don't know what you've just done." Malik met her gaze. "I know exactly." Vivienne's eyes flicked to the door. "Mr. Halden." Mr. Halden appeared instantly, like he'd been waiting. "Yes." Vivienne's voice was calm. "Disqualify him. Immediately." Donnell stepped forward. "No. His winning fair." Vivienne's smile returned, cruel and confident. "He violated the agreement." Malik blinked. "I never agreed." Vivienne shrugged lightly. "Then you never belonged." Mr. Halden cleared his throat. Ms. Ashford, the tournament rules. Vivienne's eyes cut through him. Do you want your funding next year? Mr. Halden swallowed. Malik Carter is disqualified. The room outside erupted in murmurs. Donnell grabbed Vivienne's attention, voice shaking. This is wrong. Vivienne leaned close to Donnell, whispering. Cleaners don't tell queens what's wrong. Donnell's fists clenched. Malik placed a hand on his father's arm. It's okay, Malik said quietly. Donnell's eyes were wet. No, it's not. Malik looked at Vivienne. You're scared. Vivienne laughed softly. Of you? Malik nodded. Not of me. Of the truth. Vivienne's smile vanished. Get them out. Security approached. Donnell's heart hammered. Malik, please. Malik didn't resist as they were escorted toward the exit. But as they passed the ballroom, Malik saw something that made him pause. Asher, the boy he'd shaken hands with, stood near his parents, watching, face pale. Asher's mother whispered to her husband, horrified. They're cheating. And Malik noticed more. Several parents looked uneasy. Not because Malik was being removed, but because they'd seen enough to realize the system could turn on anyone. At the doors, a reporter stepped forward, microphone raised. Malik Carter, she called. Is it true you were disqualified? Why? Vivienne's assistant tried to block her. Malik looked at the microphone. Donnell whispered urgently, Malik, don't. But Malik stepped closer and spoke clearly. I was disqualified because I wouldn't sign a contract giving Vivienne Ashford control over my life. The crowd gasped. Vivienne's face snapped toward them, fury flashing. The reporter's eyes widened. Did Ms. Ashford threaten your family? Donnell's breath caught. Malik. Malik answered anyway. She fired my father after I beat her friend, Malik said. Then offered his job back if I played for her. The ballroom erupted into chaos, whispers turning to shouts. Cameras rising. Parents murmuring. Donors shifting. Vivienne stepped forward, smile forced, voice loud. This is absurd. He's a child making accusations because he lost control of his emotions. Malik didn't blink. I didn't lose. Vivienne's eyes flared. Security tightened around Malik and Donnell, pushing them out. But the reporter's camera caught everything. Outside, Donnell grabbed Malik's shoulders, voice breaking. What did you do? Malik's eyes were calm. I told the truth. Donnell's face twisted with fear. Truth doesn't protect us. Malik looked back at the estate, lights glowing like a palace. No, Malik said softly. But it starts a fire. The world turns, and the trap snaps shut. The next morning, Malik's name was everywhere. Not the way people like Malik were usually seen, blurry mugshots, sad headlines, pity-filled charity ads. This was different. A video clip circulated, Malik, calm and composed, telling the reporter exactly what happened. Vivienne's forced smile. The donors' stunned faces. The security pushing a janitor and his son out of a palace. The city woke up angry. Some people defended Vivienne, calling Malik ungrateful, a liar, a kid chasing fame. But others heard something they couldn't ignore. They heard power exposed. By noon, Malik's school was buzzing. Kids crowded around him in the hallway like he'd become a legend overnight. Bro, you went viral, one boy shouted. A teacher pulled Malik aside, eyes worried. Malik, the principal wants to see you. Malik walked into the office and found the principal standing stiff, two men in suits sitting across from him. One of them smiled politely. Malik Carter, he said. I'm with Child Services. Donnell arrived 10 minutes later, breathless, face pale. He'd gotten a call at home, told he needed to come to the school immediately. He walked in and froze when he saw the suits. The other man spoke. Mr. Carter, we received a report that your son is being exploited for media attention. That is under undue pressure. Donnell's voice shook. Exploited? By who? The man smiled thinly. That's what we're here to assess. Malik felt it instantly. Vivienne. She couldn't control Malik's story, so she was trying to break his home. Donnell's hands clenched. My son told the truth. The child services man opened a folder. We also received a report about your living conditions. Donnell swallowed. We have an apartment. It's safe. The man's eyes flicked down. Income instability. Recent termination. Allegations of conflict with a major employer. Donnell's jaw tightened. I was fired because of your son's behavior, the man said calmly. That's one interpretation. Malik spoke, voice steady. You're not here because you care about me. The man looked at Malik like a child who didn't know his place. Watch your tone. Malik's eyes didn't move. You work for her. The principal cleared his throat nervously. Malik. Donnell stepped forward, voice breaking. This is harassment. The man smiled politely. It's procedure. Procedure. That's what people called cruelty when it wore a tie. They scheduled a home visit. They asked questions that weren't really questions. They left Donnell shaking with rage and fear. Outside the school, Donnell grabbed Malik's shoulders. You see. This is what I meant. They have power. Malik's voice was quiet. So do we. We just haven't used it right yet. That afternoon, Malik got another message, this time from a different unknown number. Meet me at the downtown library. 6 p.m. Come alone. I can help. Donnell refused. No. Absolutely not. Malik looked at him. If we do nothing, they take everything anyway. Donnell's eyes were wet. You're my son. I won't risk you. Malik's voice softened. I'm already at risk. At 6 p.m., Malik went, but Donnell followed at a distance, staying in the shadows like a father who refused to lose his child. Inside the library, Malik walked between shelves, the smell of old pages wrapping around him like comfort. A woman stepped out from behind a column. She wasn't dressed like the Ashford world. She wore a simple coat, sneakers, and tired eyes that had seen too much to be easily impressed. Malik, she asked. Yes. She held out a hand. I'm Dr. Nadia Reyes. Malik hesitated, then shook it. Nadia's eyes were sharp but kind. I'm a professor at Kingsley University. I also run a community chess program. Malik studied her. Why are you here? Nadia exhaled. Because I watched that video. And I recognized your play. Malik blinked. You saw my games. Nadia nodded. Some of us know what genius looks like. And we know what predators do when they smell it. Malik's chest tightened. She's trying to take my father. Nadia's jaw hardened. I suspected. Which is why I've been collecting information. Malik's eyes narrowed. What information? Nadia opened her bag and pulled out printed documents. Financial records. Tournament brackets. Emails. Vivienne Ashford has been fixing tournaments for years, Nadia said quietly. Not by changing pieces, but by controlling who gets invited, who gets sponsored, who gets silenced. Malik stared. Why? Nadia's voice dropped. Because it's not about chess. It's about branding. She sells the story of uplifting youth to donors. And she chooses the youth that make her look good. Malik's hands tightened. So I was never supposed to win. Nadia nodded. You were supposed to be a charity prop. A little miracle she could claim as her own. Malik swallowed hard. Can we prove it? Nadia tapped the papers. I have enough to start. But I need a face the public trusts. Someone who can't be dismissed as jealousy or politics. Malik's voice was quiet. Me. Nadia hesitated. It will get worse before it gets better. Malik looked at her. It's already worse. Nadia studied Malik for a long moment, then nodded. There's a state championship in 3 weeks. Public. Not private. Independent officials. Live stream. Malik's heart tightened. Vivienne will block me. Nadia's eyes sharpened. Not if we register through the open bracket. Malik's voice rose slightly. She'll sabotage me. Nadia leaned in. Then we make it impossible. We go public. We bring media. We bring legal support. Malik blinked. Legal support. Nadia smiled grimly. I have friends. From behind a shelf, Donnell stepped forward, unable to stay hidden anymore. Malik, he whispered. Malik turned, surprised but not angry. Dad. Donnell's eyes were wet. I followed you. Nadia nodded respectfully. Mr. Carter. Donnell stared at the papers. This could ruin her. Nadia's voice was steady. Or she could ruin you if you don't fight smart. Donnell's shoulders shook. I just wanted a quiet life. Malik stepped closer, voice soft. Quiet life for who? For us. Or for them? Donnell looked at Malik, really looked at him, like he was seeing his son not as a child, but as a force. Donnell exhaled, defeated and awakened at the same time. Okay, he whispered. We fight. Nadia nodded. Then you need to understand. Vivienne won't just come for your home. She'll come for your name. 2 days later, the home visit happened. Child services came with questions and cold smiles. They inspected cabinets. They looked at Malik's books like knowledge was suspicious. They questioned Donnell's ability to provide. Donnell stayed calm, but Malik saw the pain in his father's eyes when they looked at their worn couch like it was evidence. After they left, Malik's phone buzzed again. A notification. A headline. Viral chess boy exposed. Sources claim father forced him to lie for fame. Malik's stomach dropped. The article had photos of their apartment. Their address blurred, but still recognizable. There was a quote from an anonymous source claiming Malik had been coached to accuse Vivienne. And worse. The article accused Donnell of stealing from the hotel. Donnell stared at the screen, face drained. I never. Malik's eyes went cold. She's framing you. The next day, 2 police officers knocked on their door. Donnell opened it, confused. Donnell Carter, one officer asked. You're under investigation for theft of hotel property. Donnell's mouth opened. No, that's a lie. The officer's face stayed blank. We have a warrant to search. They entered. They searched. They found something behind the couch. A silver tray with the Ashford Crown Hotel logo. Donnell stumbled back, horrified. That's not mine. I've never seen that. Malik's heart pounded, not from fear but from rage so sharp it felt like ice. Vivienne had planted it. The officers exchanged looks. Mr. Carter, one said quietly, you need to come with us. Donnell turned to Malik, eyes terrified. Malik. I swear. Malik grabbed his father's hand. I know. One officer stepped forward. Let's go. Malik's voice rose, controlled but fierce. This is a setup. The officer didn't respond. Donnell was led out. Neighbors watched from their doors like tragedy was entertainment. Malik stood in the hallway, hands clenched, breathing slow. His phone buzzed. A message from Nadia. They arrested your father. Don't panic. Come to the university. Now. Malik swallowed hard. He looked at the empty apartment, at the couch that had just become a weapon. Checkmate on a world stage. Malik didn't get in the car. He stared at Elise through the open window, his face calm, but his eyes burning. Elise's smile stayed polished. This doesn't have to be hard. Malik's voice was quiet. You framed my father. Elise's gaze flickered, just a fraction, then steadied. I'm here to prevent worse outcomes. Malik leaned closer. Tell Vivienne I'm not scared. Elise sighed like Malik was disappointing her. Fear isn't required. Only obedience. Malik stepped back. No. Elise's smile thinned. Then you're choosing the consequences. The window rolled up. The car drove away. Malik ran. He didn't have money, connections, or influence, but he had something Vivienne didn't understand. A mind built for the long game. At Kingsley University, Nadia met Malik at the entrance, eyes fierce. 2 people stood with her, a lawyer with tired eyes and a journalist holding a camera bag. "This is Marcus Lee," Nadia said. "Civil rights attorney." Marcus extended a hand. "Malik. I've seen the video. I believe you." Malik swallowed, surprised by the certainty. Nadia gestured to the journalist. "And this is Juno Park. Investigative reporter." Juno nodded. "Ashford stories get buried. But not if we build it right." Malik's voice trembled, not from weakness, because he finally felt support. "They arrested my father." Marcus's jaw tightened. "We'll file an emergency motion. But we need leverage." Nadia opened her bag. More documents, more emails, more proof. "We're going to do two things," she said. "We fight for your father in court. And we fight Vivienne where she can't bribe the outcome." Malik's eyes narrowed. "Where?" Nadia's voice was sharp. "The state championship." Marcus frowned. "That's in 3 weeks." Nadia nodded. "And it's being live-streamed. Sponsors. Media. Neutral officials." Juno added, "Vivienne will be there. She's on the honorary board." Malik's voice was steady. "She'll try to block my registration." Marcus slid a form across a table. "Already handled. We registered you under the open bracket this morning. Legally, she can't stop you without making it obvious." Malik stared at the form like it was a key. Nadia leaned in. "But we also do something else." She pointed to a name on a list. "Miles Hargrove." Malik's eyes flickered. Nadia's voice lowered. "Miles lost to you. Twice. And now he's being pressured to pretend you cheated. People like Vivienne don't just punish outsiders, they punish anyone who fails them." Malik frowned. "You think he'll help?" Nadia nodded. "Not out of kindness. Out of fear." 2 days later, Malik met Miles Hargrove in a quiet coffee shop near the private academy. Miles looked wrecked. Dark circles under his eyes. His confidence shattered into anger. He sat across from Malik and didn't pretend to smile. "You ruined my life," Miles snapped. Malik's voice stayed calm. "I beat you." Miles slammed his hand lightly on the table. "You made me look weak. My dad, he's furious. Vivienne, she's using me like I'm nothing." Malik stared at him. "Now you understand." Miles swallowed hard, eyes glossy. "She told my father I'm off the sponsor list unless I fix this. Unless I say you cheated." Malik leaned in. "Did you?" Miles stared at the table. "No." Malik's voice softened slightly. "Then tell the truth." Miles laughed bitterly. "Truth. She can destroy us." Malik's eyes didn't move. "She's already destroying you. You just haven't admitted it." Miles' hands trembled. "She framed your dad." Malik's throat tightened. "You know." Miles nodded, eyes haunted. "I heard Elise on the phone. They planted the tray. Vivienne said, he'll fold when the father breaks." Malik inhaled slowly, forcing the rage to stay controlled. Miles whispered, "I don't want to be her puppet anymore." Malik held his gaze. "Then help me." Miles swallowed. "What do you need?" Malik's answer was simple. "Proof." Miles hesitated, then pulled out his phone and slid it across. "I recorded her," he whispered. "In the lounge. After you left. She was furious. She said she'd erase you." Malik stared at the phone like it was a weapon made of light. Miles' voice cracked. "If I give you this, I'm dead socially." Malik looked at him. "If you don't, you're dead inside." Miles flinched. Then nodded. "Okay," he whispered. "Checkmate her." The court hearing came first. Marcus used the recording and the documents Nadia gathered to argue unlawful retaliation, harassment, and fabrication. The judge listened with a face that got colder the more the truth revealed itself. Donnell was released pending investigation. When Malik saw his father walk out of the courthouse, thinner and shaken but free, Malik's chest tightened. Donnell hugged Malik so hard Malik could barely breathe. "I'm sorry," Donnell whispered. "I'm sorry I ever tried to make you small." Malik's voice shook. I didn't do this alone. Donnell looked at Nadia, Marcus, and Juno standing nearby. Thank you, he whispered, voice breaking. Nadia nodded. He earned this. Now we finish it. 3 weeks later, the state championship arrived. An arena full of bright lights, cameras, and rows of boards like a battlefield of mines. The livestream banner behind the stage read, State Youth Chess Championship, presented by Ashford Foundation. Vivienne stood near the front row, smiling for cameras, dressed in a flawless red suit. She waved, radiant, like she hadn't tried to destroy a family. Malik entered with his father, Nadia, and Marcus. The crowd murmured. Some recognized him. Some whispered liar. Some whispered genius. Vivienne's smile froze for half a second when she saw Donnell beside Malik. Then it returned, harder. She approached, eyes glittering. Malik, she said smoothly. Still chasing attention. Malik looked at her calmly. Still hiding behind money. Vivienne's eyes narrowed. This isn't your stage. Malik's voice was quiet. We'll see. The games began. Malik advanced through rounds with precision that made commentators lean forward. He wasn't flashy. He was surgical. Meanwhile, Juno's story dropped online mid-tournament, an investigative piece revealing the planting of evidence, the coercion contracts, the fixed invitation system, and Vivienne's retaliation pattern, backed by recordings and documents. Phones lit up across the arena. Parents started whispering loudly. Sponsors looked uneasy. Vivienne's assistant rushed to her, pale, whispering urgently. Vivienne's face tightened, but she kept smiling for cameras like a mask glued to skin. Malik reached the final match. And who sat across from him? Asher. The quiet boy Malik had respected. Asher looked at Malik with sad eyes. They tried to stop you. Malik nodded. They tried to stop both of us. You just didn't know. Asher swallowed. I know now. They played. It was the most beautiful game Malik had ever played. Two minds refusing to be tools, refusing to be owned, refusing to let power decide truth. The arena went silent as the board tightened into a final position. Asher made a brilliant defense. Malik found a line no one expected. A sacrifice. A trap. A quiet final move. Checkmate. The crowd erupted, not polite applause, but roaring, emotional sound that shook the room. Malik stood and offered Asher his hand. Asher shook it, smiling through pain. You earned it. Malik's voice was soft. So did you. Cameras zoomed in. The commentator's voice boomed, and the champion is Malik Carter. Vivienne stood in the front row, hands clasped, smiling so hard it looked painful. Then Marcus stepped onto the edge of the stage and spoke to the tournament officials, showing credentials. Security moved toward Vivienne, not to protect her, but to escort her. Vivienne's smile finally cracked. What is this? She hissed. Marcus's voice was calm and loud enough for nearby cameras. Ms. Ashford, you're being served. Restraining orders. Civil suits. And evidence has been submitted to prosecutors regarding falsified reports and interference. Vivienne's eyes flashed with fury. You can't, do you know who I am? Malik stepped down from the stage and walked toward her slowly. His father stood behind him, not hiding anymore. Malik's voice carried, steady and clear. I know who you are, Malik said. You're someone who thought a janitor's son was a joke, until the whole world saw the truth. Vivienne's face twisted. You're nothing without me. Malik's eyes were calm. No, he said. I'm everything without you. Vivienne was escorted out as cameras captured her mask falling off in real time. Sponsors began pulling away. Officials announced an immediate review of Ashford Foundation's role in youth chess. And for the first time, the Ashford name didn't sound like power. It sounded like accountability. Later that night, Malik sat on the steps outside the arena with his father. Donnell stared at Malik like he couldn't believe his son was real. You didn't just win, Donnell whispered. You changed something. Malik leaned his head back, exhausted. We did. Donnell's voice broke. I spent my life thinking survival was the goal. Malik looked at him. Survival is step 1. Freedom is step 2. Nadia approached, smiling softly. Scholarship offers are already coming in, she said. Real ones. Not chains. Marcus added, and your father's case is turning. People are talking. The city can't pretend anymore. Donnell wiped his face, ashamed of his tears but unable to stop them. Malik reached for his father's hand. You're not invisible anymore. Donnell squeezed Malik's hand like he was holding on to the future. As the night cooled, Malik's phone buzzed again. Another message. But this time, it wasn't a threat. It was an email subject line. Invitation. National Youth Chess Team Trials. Special Review. Malik stared at it, breathing slow. Donnell leaned over, reading, eyes widening. Nadia smiled. You ready? Malik looked up at the sky, dark, wide, honest. He exhaled. I've been ready, he said. Then he stood. Not as a joke. Not as a prop. Not as someone asking for permission. But as someone stepping into a world that could no longer deny him.